In the United States of America, a woman is beaten every 15 seconds. The video you just watched was 5 minutes and 45 seconds long, meaning 36.3 women were abused. My name is Emanuel George Constance III, CEO of Fourth Son Production Studios. That mere fact alone pushed myself and my staff to get this documentary done. We want to give you the strength, the motivation, and the knowledge to get help. So if you've been abused, pay attention. If you know someone that's been abused, also pay attention. Because the fact is all, whether you're male, female, black or white, rich or poor, we all are affected by the method of violence. So I wish you the best, and I hope we give you strength. Good luck. Peace.
Myth: domestic violence does not affect many people.
Three different
relationships that were very violent.
Okay.
Again, but she came underhand and hit me in the stomach with the knife.
So she stabbed you. How many times did she stab you?
Once.
Today, and I'm not 100% to where I was before. I've been burned in my face till white flesh shown. My eyes have been black and blue. My nose has been busted. My teeth have been broken. I don't look anything like the tormented road that I've been down.
That he told me that he was the boss. In fact,
and I got shot. And I ended up
control. His hands were on my throat, and it got worse and worse as time went on. He started throwing furniture at me.
A woman is beaten every 15 seconds in the United States of America. What is domestic violence?
Domestic violence is a force of coercion to force someone to do whatever you want them to do, whether it's physical, emotional, mental, or intimidation by threatening.
Domestic violence is the leading cause of injury to women between ages 15 and 44 in the United States, more than car accidents, muggings, and rapes combined.
Can you share with us a part of your story about what happened?
Sure, I'd be glad to. We started dating, and after about 4 months he asked me to marry him. I was really very surprised. It was Christmas Eve, and I really wasn't expecting a ring for Christmas at all. And so I said yes after about 3 days, and we set a wedding date for July, and everything was great and wonderful. And about a month before the wedding, I was really getting antsy, and he was able to talk me into it because he was charming and the usual attributes that they have. And so we got married. And about 6 weeks after the wedding, we were having a conversation, and he got really outdone with me and put his fist through the wall. And my first thought was, what is going on here?
Myth: battering is only a momentary loss of temper.
showed any signs of domestic violence until I'd had my first child, and we got into an argument over some of his past relationships, and the first thing that happened was that he kicked the door, my closet door, and started yelling. Actually, my newborn child was laying on the bed, on the sheet, and through his, haste and arguing, when he got up, he pulled the sheet, so the baby almost fell on the floor. Actually, he kicked the closet door in the wall, and he left. And
why do women live with abuse?
Logically, I don't see no reason for, even staying in an abusive relationship. Maybe, financial reasons, love, so-called love, the kids, but in a responsible person, if you're in a relationship and you have kids, the first thing you want to do is the welfare of your kids, so you're going to leave an abusive relationship. I don't know or understand why would someone want to be in an abusive relationship with anybody.
One answer is
one clue that he's abusive So that's the hook. I call it the hook that's used to get the woman into the relationship. And it's often the hook that keeps her there, because women often believe it's their fault. You know, you'll hear a woman say, well, you know, I made him mad. Well, no, you didn't make him mad. He is responsible for his behavior. And women say, well, if I only did something a little differently, then he wouldn't have done what he did. But what we know about abuse is that it's power and control. It's what the one partner does in order to control the behavior, the actions, even the thoughts of the other partner. And when that condition is there, it doesn't matter what the victim does. If he says, oh honey, I don't like you wearing green or pink or red, you need to wear something else. Well, let me tell you, it won't matter what she wears. He will still react. If it's pink, it's because it's not the right style. If it, you know, so that if he says, well, you know, I got mad because you didn't have dinner on time, which we hear that often. Well, you know, he came in at 6, he was really, really hungry, and the dish wasn't ready. Well, it wouldn't have mattered. If the dish had been ready at 6 o'clock, it would have been too salty. It would have been too cold. So it's nothing she does.
Another reason is
Started trying to get my clothes to leave, and then he just, well, I didn't mean to do that. I'm sorry, I ain't gonna never do that again, this, that, and the other. So it never happened again for months. After that, it just all of a sudden just got even worse. And when it did get worse, I felt like I didn't have a job. My mom and daddy mad with me. I can't go back there. I don't have no friends that I can go to, so I'm just stuck until I can dig my way out of this hole.
myth. Domestic violence only occurs in African American households.
I feel like domestic violence is a black and white issue. I think it's more of a social class issue. I feel like the further you get from the poverty line, the less domestic violence you'll see. And statistics kind of skew the fact that most black people live below the poverty line. So automatically you assume that there's more domestic violence in the black neighborhoods. But I don't feel like that's necessarily true. I just think that poverty plays a strong force in the domestic violence that we see. Society and the social issues and the day-to-day living, just trying to survive is just added pressure to your life that you just can't seem to shake or leave at the front doorstep when you go home.
Women of all cultures, races, occupation, income levels, and ages are battered by husbands, boyfriends, lovers, and partners.
Same job, and he saw me and decided to give me a call and introduce himself.
Were there any signs of him being an abusive person?
No, not at all. In fact, he was quite charming and attentive, very supportive.
Okay. How old were you?
At the time, I was like 17.
17. So young.
I was young.
That's what's up. Okay. And how long you guys? Well, how long you was together first? How long y'all was together?
First of all, we was together like 3.5 years.
Okay. All right. Now, through those 3.5 years, did he exhibit or show any signs that he was that he had a problem with his temper? Any signs?
Yes, he did.
Okay.
At first, he was nice, but I knew that he was a mean person. He had temper problems. He was very verbal abusive at the time, but it was something that I could deal with. I thought I could deal with.
Why'd you stay with him?
Because in our group of friends, the girls, we was after the bad boys at that time. The bad boys was, so he was the baddest boy in the neighborhood. He had the baddest car, loud music, nice rims. So that's the one I wanted. The other ones, they got the friends. So it was always like a group thing when we went out together. But him, on the other hand, he was always the one starting and just overly aggressive.
Approximately 1 in 10 high school students has experienced physical violence in dating relationships. Among college students, the figure rises to 22%, equivalent to the rate for adults.
Watch movies, no rented movies, and we had conversations about what we was gonna do in our past life and like that.
Oh, wow.
And I stayed over there for a good little minute. She took me back to the crib. I told her I was gonna call her. After that, we just started calling each other constantly.
Alright. So, how old were you when this? How old were you when y'all was dating? How old were you?
I was 16.
16. All right. Did your parents know you were dating? Well, how old was she?
20.
20. Did your parents know you were dating an older woman?
My dad did.
Your dad did. Okay.
My dad always knew I liked the older women though.
Okay.
Not the past 2 months, but I say when that third month kicked in, she did seem to get a little grouchy.
What you mean? Did she ever hit you before that?
Nah, she was just throwing me hits and signs like she was about to hit me.
Like, what kind of signs?
Like she yipped at me, she'll pick up on a knife and point it at me or some
In anger?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so what happened the night that she stabbed you? What happened?
I was at the Renaissance. I was coming home from the Renaissance because they had some kind of jamboree party there. And they don't close until like 1 something. And I was trying to get in touch with my boy Mike because we were supposed to be going to do something that night I left. And she called my grandma's house looking for me, but I was nowhere to be found. So I met a female out there. Me and her got to talking and kicking. And so happened, my girl was in the turning lane over there by the red light. She was watching the whole thing. So I told the girl to drop me off at my girl, which I shouldn't have did anyway. So when I got there, she was already in the house, waiting on me. So as I opened the door, I don't hear nothing. All I heard was, "Where the hell you been?" And by the time I would have got to the point where I said I was at the club, next thing you know, I seen a big shiny object come flying towards me.
Did she throw it at you?
No, she swung, I ducked, and I swung again, but she came underhand and hit me in the stomach with the knife.
So she stabbed you. How many times did she stab you?
Once.
Okay, and what happened after that?
After that, she bailed out. I'm in the room, crawling to the phone, trying to call for help. Then the paramedics came about like a good hour later. After that, I got to the hospital, got stitched up and everything. Last time I heard that she was locked up.
Okay. You mentioned earlier about you had did you go through any kind of surgeries or anything like that?
I was on a colostomy bag.
For how long?
I say about a good little 2 months.
Have you seen her since?
When women kill, and they do so at astonishing lower rates than men who commit 85% of all homicides, the vast majority kill family members. Usually men who have battered them for years. As many as 90% of the women in jail today for killing men have been battered by those men.
Experiences with my marriage, and I met my wife at Executive Club. This was back in the early 80s. We stayed married 7 years, and the marriage fell apart because of infidelity on both parts. I'm going to just say it's her fault on both parts. But hers was more devastating than mine. My most participation in that was the type of jobs that I had. I never was at home, couldn't spend too much time at home, so I guess she found somebody else that could. And, this is really, this is really hard for me, but Like I said, I don't want to put the blame on her, but it got real nasty. We separated, and after about 9 months, we tried it again, and it got worse because the seeds had already been planted. She and I got into it, and the result, I got shot.
A study conducted in Georgia of 226, that's 96% of 235 female inmates currently serving for homicide, revealed a presence of domestic violence in more than half of the cases when the woman has killed her significant other. There is some record of history of domestic abuse, and 60% of the cases where a woman killed her significant other, the woman claims the victim assaulted or abused her at the time of the crime.
Into the neighborhood, and I found some very thuggish, rough males, because I didn't have brothers, I didn't have a family system, I didn't have any type of support system. And I met 5 really brutal guys, and I kept them in my house all the time, and every time he came there he got a butt whooping, and they pulled him away in ambulances, and he kept coming back. He was under my house in pipes, he was pulling out electrical lines. The final straw was when they finally pulled him out in April of 2004, and he had his skull was cracked open, and he sat on the sidewalk handcuffed, bleeding, and screaming my name.
A child's exposure to the father abusing the mother is the strongest risk factor for transmitting violent behavior from one generation to the next.
You say, when is your mother and father going through domestic abuse?
Shit.
So what happened?
You know what I'm saying? It was back when the nigga was standing Rosenwald. I was about 10 or 11. One night, you know what I'm saying? I woke up, got up out the bed. You know what I'm saying? I left out the room. All I heard was my mama screaming and hollering, talking about off. So, you know what I'm saying? I went up in there, that my mama crying, you hear me? I went up in there. You know what I'm saying? I see my daddy hitting my mom, you know what I'm saying? Kicking and stomping and you know what I'm saying? I bust out crying like any other little nigga would do, you hear me? I ran over there and helped my mom, you know what I'm saying? But it looked like I wasn't getting nowhere, you hear me? Niggas started beating you know what I'm saying? That, you hear me? So, you know what I'm saying? After that, he stopped. He talking about, I'm sorry, son, and woo-de-woo and all that, you know what I'm saying? But anyway, the next few months, the nigga back with the same you hear me? But we moved. We'll stand up in Gardell Lane on Skysail, you know what I'm saying? It was for my 11th birthday. You know what I'm saying? We out there partying. Next thing you know, he won't come over there drunk. Won't come out there with that bullshit. I'm nothing but fam out there, you know what I'm saying? He the only stupid ass though. So he won't hit my mama across the head with a bottle, you know what I'm saying? So I hopped up and hit him with a chair. So everybody, the whole fam just got on, you know what I'm saying? And she went back with him, you hear me? She said that was her first and she wanted to be her last, you hear me? Till the day she gone, you hear me? That what she say her vows say for the wedding, you hear me? But other like that, few months passed again, he with the same old That time a nigga a little older, you know what I'm saying? It was 15. He tried to me and my cousin and stuff. You know what I'm saying? That's about it, you hear me? I don't need to let nobody else know what's happening with that, you hear me? It's just like Boots and Weber ghetto story. You know what I'm saying? And be real with you, the reason why Young Dream wanted to be a part of the documentary, because, you know what I'm saying, people that don't know, you hear me, domestic violence will out here in Louisiana, man. Just keep it cool, bro. That's all I gotta say, man.
Every year, approximately 3.3 million children in the United States between the ages of 3 and 17 witness domestic violence.
I feel like this is the most important subject of this domestic violence issue because, you know, as a kid growing up in a domestic violence situation, you know, they are more impressionable by the surroundings, so it's going to hold a bigger weight on their outcome of their life. I mean, if you're a kid and you see your mama getting beat every day and that's the only image of a family unit that you see, then that's what you think. And as a little girl, you think that's how a man's supposed to show his love is by physically abusing him. And if you're a young male, then you think that's the only way you're supposed to express your love is by abusing your female. And I don't think that's the case. You know, it's assimilation by association. So the best thing I can say is, you know, that's the most important aspect.
In 1996, among all female murder victims in the United States, 30% were slain by their husbands or boyfriends. Police were more likely to respond within 5 minutes if the offender was a stranger than if the offender was known to the female victim.
Kidnapped me at gunpoint in front of St. Francis Xavier School with people standing outside. He would break into my home. He was found in my home so many times with a loaded gun and bullets. But because of the stature and position of his family, he wasn't held accountable as someone else on the street would have been. He was released, sometimes the same 15, 20 minutes later on my street. There is days where there are over 10 to 20 back-to-back 911 calls because the police would capture him and release him and he'd be right back. And so it was something that I was aware of right away.
Myth. Domestic violence is a push, slap, or a punch. It does not produce serious injuries.
I was doing about 90 miles per hour and we almost flew into these people's house. So I asked him, what's wrong with you? He backhanded me in my face, bust my nose, bust my lip. So I backhanded him. So we in the car just tearing each other to pieces, blood flying everywhere. Both of us bust up in these people's yard. So we pulled out from the people's yard and pulled up at a corner store. So he tried to yank me out the car, drag me out the car, talking about fight ain't over with. So I was hanging on to the steering wheel and the shift key for my dear life because I knew if he would have pulled me out of that car, he was going to beat me up worse. So he couldn't get me out the car, and the people in the store, they ran out and they was like, why are you beating on that lady? We finna call the police on you. So then he jumps back in the car. We go to my cousin's house, drop him off, and we ended up at Dave's Car Stereo. So we sitting in the front of Dave's Car Stereo. He want to talk. I'm like, I don't want to talk. I don't want you no more. Just take me home. And that's that. He didn't want to hear that. So we started fighting again on the parking lot at Dave's Car Stereo. The police whips up. He ended up going to jail and they let me come home. When I got home, I looked in the mirror. I did not look nothing. I didn't look like me at all. I looked like the Elephant Man.
Battered women are often severely injured. 22 to 35% of women who visit medical emergency rooms are there for injuries related to ongoing partner abuse.
And he was committed to our children, and that's what I really wanted him to be, committed to me. And
1 in 4 pregnant women have a history of partner violence.
The children, I knew that along the way, I discovered that he wasn't perfect. He was doing things that was breaking the marriage vows, but I felt there was hope. And throughout the course of time, I realized there was no hope. I lost hope in the relationship, and I didn't want my children to endure the heartache and the pain. I didn't want them to live and grow up under that situation. I wanted better for them. I didn't want my kids my girls to accept that type of domination from their partners when they grew up. I did not want my son to think that that was what he had to do in his relationships with any woman.
If a man abuses your little girl.
If you had asked me that question, in my previous life, I'd have gave you a different answer. But we here now, and the day is today, and I have 2 beautiful daughters now. And in a sense, if anybody ever put their hands on my daughter, it would have to take God himself to physically come down from the heavens most high and restrain me. I say it with a smile because that's how I feel. It's comical to even think a man would ever abuse my daughters. And I just think a man that abuses women is just straight I know can't deal with your situation. Your home is your sanctum. Your wife is your queen. You know, that's the backbone of keeping your family together. You destroying your family, and you letting the outside pressure of the world dictate how you gonna live your life.
The prevalence of domestic violence among gay and lesbian couples is approximately 25 to 33%. It is as common as it is in heterosexual relationships.
I work in outreach and in non-residential.
Hi, Kim. It's so nice to meet you. In the same-sex community, does domestic violence occur?
Yes, it does. We would not know as far as if there were same-sex violence offenders or whatever out there, but until we take an assessment, because all the calls are treated the same. We don't pick and choose and decipher between who we speak to and what's serious, what's not serious, because every call that comes in here is serious.
Right.
Domestic violence is a non-discriminatory phenomenon. Victims as well as violent and abusive offenders come from all walks of life, all ethnic groups. All battering has long been one of the lesbian, gay, bisexual, and transgender community best kept secrets.
Secure line they have, or the only safe place they feel they can go, because it's over the phone, or if they do need to get away to a shelter, then they have us there also.
Myth: abuse/battering that occurs in same-gender relationships is usually mutual.
Have you ever had someone to come in that comes in with a family that has kids that's involved in a gay relationship?
Yeah, there's women that have children that are in a gay relationship that come into the shelter, and they're fleeing for their lives. It's a serious situation. I mean, anything that can happen in heterosexual can happen in a gay community relationship also. It's that serious. So
each year, between 50,000 and 100,000 lesbian women and as many as 50,000 gay men are battered.
How do you think that people stay in the same-sex relationships if they get violent?
Oh, a lot of the reasons are the same as heterosexual reasons, but another reason would be because sometimes they're not even known. Their families don't know that they're maybe in a gay relationship.
It might appear to be mutual, but it is not. It is a cycle of violence and includes control and domination by one of the partners. Many victims will attempt to defend themselves by fighting back.
And they don't want it to be told, so therefore they stay in that relationship just for embarrassment, for fear, for being ostracized by their family. They kind of have their own little world. Some people, some of the gays do. And they stay kind of secretive.
Myth: once you're in an abusive relationship, there's no way out.
Direct services here at the Battered Women's Program. And welcome to the Zonta House Shelter. This is where we're sitting in our gazebo today.
Hello, Miss Vicky. It's very nice to meet you. And I wanted to start off by asking you, why do you think that women stay in an abusive relationship?
Well, there are many, many reasons people stay, and it's very complex. But one of the most important reasons is a lack of resources. Because if a person has been...
There are friends and places that can and will help you in your family.
With a partner who controls them and takes over every part of their life, they many times don't have money, they don't have relationships any longer, and they don't have a support system to help them get out of a dangerous situation.
It's true.
Another thing that might happen is they may have been told they'll lose their children if they leave the situation, and that they're not worthy of being a mother or a parent. So sometimes it's very frightening to a person, especially if they're a mom, and they don't want to leave their children behind. So that's quite scary, and it keeps them there. Sometimes people are afraid that the batterer will retaliate and just come after them more aggressively. Because we know that the most dangerous time for a person is when they're leaving a battering situation. Their risk of death and injury escalates a great deal. It really, really goes very high. Another thing might be that a religious belief. Sometimes our religions and our faith tells us that we have to stay. And sometimes religious leaders will tell a person they have to stay in a situation and it's not okay to leave. So there are many, many different reasons. Every situation is a little different, but those are some common reasons people do stay.
And does the shelter offer any assistance in helping women start over?
Yes. If a person comes to an emergency shelter setting, then they work with a counselor or an advocate in making a plan for themselves. And depending on what a woman wants to do, let's say they want new housing or a different house, a safe house, and they need furniture, they need to get a job, then we would help them with resources and to identify where their skills are, how they can start making some money, and how to set up housing in there.
That's great. And how long has this shelter been around?
For a very long time. Actually, we're the second oldest shelter in the state of Louisiana. And though the program started in the late 70s, the shelter wasn't established until 1981, and the very first one had 15 beds. I'm glad to say now we have 60 beds. We can help a lot more people.
Great. And does the shelter offer any counseling?
Yes, we do. When a person is here and stays with us in our Zonta House shelter, they have individual counseling, times to sit with an advocate and talk alone and about their private situation. And then we also offer group counseling where people can come together, talk about their situations, brainstorm, problem solve, and kind of share their emotions.
And is counseling only for residents here at the shelter?
Good question. No, we also have it for persons who are living in the community and have a safe place to stay, but they still need to work on their domestic violence issues. And they too have groups that are offered during the week, and they can bring their children. So we have groups for children, we have groups for adult women, and then we can talk individually as well. Is working with the children. This is the children's area called the Kids Zone at the Battered Women's Program. Here we offer daily play groups for about an hour and a half a day. We talk about things like respect, how to be a friend, our hands are not for hitting, what do we do when we're angry, and what do we do when things don't feel safe in our houses. Our advocates work with the children to make a safety plan and to talk about what will happen when they leave the shelter setting. So this is the Kids Zone, formerly a chapel, and we believe a very safe and divine place.
Women are the victims of intimate violence and homicide significantly more often than men. Intimate partner violence accounted for 21% of crimes against men in 2000. Words from a man who lost Baton Rouge own Jackie Neal. We love you and still miss you.
How long has your sister been gone?
Right now, it's been a year and a few months.
All right.
Right at 2 years.
All right. How did that change your family's life, your life, and your family's life as a whole?
Oh, that changes a lot because of the fact that
Women are more likely to be victims of homicide when they separate from their husbands. 65% of intimate homicide victims had physically separated from their perpetrator prior to their death.
my brother passed away. And 4 months later, my dad passed. And 3 months later, Jackie got killed. So we had a whole lot to just bring us together closer than what we were.
Nationally, 50% of all homeless women and children are on the streets because of violence in the home.
How are her sons taking everything?
Tyrone is, he's at the age where, he's just trying to handle business at the house. Bro is, he taking it out in the music. I go over to the studio and I run down tracks with him. He take all this anger out in the music. And the baby boy, Raj, he just angry. He just, he angry, his mom gone, and, if he had his way, he wanted to get to James. And we're working with him in that area.
Right.
1/3 of all police time is spent responding to domestic violence disturbance calls. More info, please take note.
That you have a website. Can you give us some information on that?
Yes, we do. Our website address is www.stopdv.org. And you can also find information on donations, how to make donations, volunteers, how you can volunteer at our program, because we're always in need of volunteers, and information and facts on domestic violence also. And we also have a panic button where if someone is on the site and someone shows up, she can press that button and it'll all go away.
Okay, that's neat.
Thank you.
Each day, more than 3 women in the United States are murdered by male intimate partners. How can we put an end to domestic violence?
Into domestic violence.
I don't know that that will put an end to it, but I think that there are some deterrents that can be made. And some of the things that I proposed, even in the Mayor Bobby Simpson's era, because I sit at many meetings in my community. I've spoken at the state capitol on these issues, and I try to effect change in positive ways. Some of the things that I've suggested that might help to slow or deter this problem in our community is to have some type of guidelines in place, to have a place where people who abuse go, and they can serve a 4-week term where they go to work every day and report to that center at night. They pay $100 a week to the center. $50 goes in restitution to the family, whether it's a male or female. $50 goes to the center so that they have some funding for their own upkeep, instead of the government taking care of families and children that are displaced and made dysfunctional, and then released back into the populace, lesser down than where they were before all this had happened. So we have a place that can allow them to work off their time, pay back to their restitution to the community and to the people they violated, as well as attend alternate weekends of anger management and community service for the first 4 weeks. If that does not do it, then the second time is an 8-week program. $400 going to the victim, $400 going to the center for their upkeep and care. Third time is jail time.
I really think there's one definite way you can stop domestic violence. I think every individual situation dictates a different solution. Like I said, poverty line it plays a huge impact on how people feel in their own household. The pressure, jobs, better education. That's for the poverty line. And a lot of people just need some psychological help, men and women in abusive relationships. I always felt like if somebody hit you once, they bound to hit you again. So as a woman, if a man ever put his hands on you, you should leave that relationship instantly.
The women who stood up and stood strong against domestic violence.
And to honor the survivors who lived to tell their story. So I would like to introduce the mayor of East Baton Rouge Parish, Mayor Kip Holden, for just a word.
Thank you very much. This is a very important occasion for all of us. When Martha started reading some of the statistics off before the city council about how many people suffer from various forms of abuse, it's quite an interesting number in one sense, but yet it's a shame that we have so many people suffering needlessly at the hands of people who really don't have the heart that really would welcome them in love, but yet they welcome them in hate. And so as we move forward tonight, I think it's incumbent upon all of us, even make yourself a committee of one, but go out and start spreading the word about what we can do together in order to save a lot of victims from the things that they're having to go through. And at the same time, we're talking about from children to you name it, and we have to take care of children in particular. We made our commitment. I just told Martha that we increased their budget. It may not sound like much, but it's exactly what she asked for. So we increased their budget this year as well, and you'll be hearing about that. And so, again, thank all of you, and let's go out and conquer this sickness and make this community a prime example of what every community should be about in regards to fighting domestic violence. Thank you, and God bless you.
Don't let the rain keep you away. We need it, and in some cases, I think it's the tears of sadness for what we have lost in this community. Of course, this is such an important event for all of us.
Cynthia Hebert, Erica Bell, Nicole Francois, Elena Wolf, Yashmin Jackson, who died at the hand of their intimate partner, Roosevelt and Sophia Clark, who were killed by their daughter's boyfriend, Ashiana Godshaw, who was killed by her mother's boyfriend, Darlene Mills, Dolores McGrew, Gloria Howard, and Leonard Howard, who were killed in a church shooting.
Valena Duhan,
Mary Elizabeth Marinello,
Sharika Broussard,
Roosevelt Clark,
Sophia Clark,
Carla Hampton Brown,
Cynthia Aban,
Lori Johnson,
Oshia Gocha,
Erica Bell,
Darlene Mills,
Dolores McGraw,
Gloria Howard,
Leonard Howard,
Shakia Richard,
Rose Romero,
Nicole Frenchbaum,
Cynthia Williams,
Dorothy Lewis,
Elaine Wolf,
Kendra Tanya,
Yashmin Jackson,
Sharika Strills,
Shine Marcha Joshua.
3 weeks before she got killed, one of her best friend, Angel, who got shot with her, called me and told me that James had carried Jackie on Whiskey Bay to kill her. So Angel said Jackie called on the cell phone. She got up out of her bed at 2 o'clock in the morning and went on Whiskey Bay. And she went out there and she said she got Jackie away from James. But James wouldn't tell me anything. I mean, Jackie wouldn't tell me anything. I really didn't know anything. And the morning that she got killed, he called me. And he wanted me to come out on Seagram Lane to meet him for breakfast. Which the police said it was a good thing I didn't go because he was trying to fool me to get to her. And so I talked to him that morning, and I mean, I didn't know he had that in mind because I really would have tried to talk him out of it. But like I told him in court, I don't hate him. I hate what he did to me and my family and Jackie kids. But it wasn't nothing I could do because I really didn't know it. I found out everything after. Her daddy didn't know it because her daddy thought James was pride and joy. So I just don't know. I don't know anything about it, but there's a lot of stuff I hear now. And I know that he had done to her, but she was just a joy of our life. And everybody loved her, everybody. Because she was a great child. And I'm still hurting, but life goes on. Because I lost 3 in 11 months. And 2 of my kids and my husband, and that was hard. So, but I'm still going on. Everything's doing fine. Thank you.
Poem that I wrote called I Am Free. I once met this guy that I thought loved me for me. Behind the mask he wore, there were things I could not see. We dated for a while, and then this fool later moved in. All of a sudden, the madness started to begin. He started to treat me like I was his worldly possession. Then came the jealousy, rage, and then the obsession. Whenever we were in public, I had to remain close by his side. I had to sit right next to him in the car, just simply taking a ride. He started to go places and no longer wanted me to go. His jealousy and rage by this time had really started to grow. I listened on the phone while he talked to the woman he was with the night before. Now the answer was clear why I couldn't go places with him anymore. Guess who got beat down because he had just got busted? He had the nerve to put his hands on me because he could not be trusted. When I was around my family, I wanted to cry out very loud. I was too embarrassed to say anything because I always wanted to make them proud. On one occasion, he gave me 2 black eyes, a busted lip, and dislocated my jaw. I was so afraid I wouldn't even trust protection from the law. I remember being stumped after being thrown on the hardwood floor. I remember the knots in my back and how long I stayed sore. I remember my head being banged against the wall. I even remember when he made my hand bleed while we walked in the mall. I hope he got a thrill from doing what he did to me. In spite of all he did, God answered my prayers and set me free. This painful memory crosses my mind from one time to another. I have security knowing that one day God will deal with this brother. How could I ever forget what God Almighty did for me? He gave me strength and courage to walk away, and that's why I am free. When you see me smiling, you're probably wondering, how could that be? The answer is simple. I told you I am free.
And colors. Remember that they came from places near and far. Remember that they loved and they had children and grew wildflowers and tomatoes. Remember that even with their dying breaths, they cried for freedom. Remember and never forget. Remember and never, never forget that these women are courageous revolutionary heroes that these women lost their lives in the war against women, that these women built sandcastles and forts, and ate chocolate cream pies, and rode horses bareback, and swatted flies at barbecues, and smelled of jasmine and ginseng, and made love in old Chevys. And every day, every single day, fought for freedom. Remember their names. And the rain is holding off, and we can have our march.